Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commbox Live, where the game lives on, it never dies. I'm Behram Kazi, you can find me at Def Mango on Twitter. With me is Jared Kimber, as always, and you can find him literally everywhere. An exciting day at the T20 World Cup, Jared, and we finally have our first upset. We have 3 games to review, but it makes sense to go first with Zimbabwe's historic 23-run victory over Australia in Colombo. They repeated their feat back from 2007. Australia are yet to beat Zimbabwe at the T20 World Cup, the only team they haven't beaten in the T20 World Cup. And I mean, I suppose it's fair to say that we knew this already, but Australia really can't do slow pitches, can they?
They can't. Not just from 2007, by the way. They also lost to them in 1983, right?
Yeah, so they've still beaten Zimbabwe in ODI World Cups, though, right?
They have beaten them, yeah. They haven't beaten them at all in T20. Look, the pitch was part of it. It was a really interesting surface, right? Because I think Varun had the stats of Brian Bennett just kept playing shots and just couldn't find the boundary. And we know Brian Bennett is a brilliant ball striker, right? And he just couldn't hit the boundary, but Australia couldn't get him out. And I think they probably thought to themselves, oh, they're just never going to get away here. Right. So we're going to, we'll be able to get away. And so, yeah, we can't bowl them out, but 169, we'll be able to chase this. The thing is, and I'm not saying they didn't know this, but the thing is that Zimbabwe is a new ball bowling side, right? They have. I was a bit shocked when Sikandar took to new ball, but that's a different conversation for it.
That was kind of weird.
Yeah, but, you look at this side and you've got, Muzrambani and Brad Evans. And they could have picked another new ball seamer, I think, as well. Engarava is a really good player. So they had options.
Engarava apparently had a niggle, Jared. I was also shocked not to see him in the starting 11. Okay. And he
I just thought maybe I was giving them the credit that perhaps they thought that this was going to spin a little bit more. And so they went with they went with the extra pacer, but no, fair enough. So yeah, I think it was just a bit of an interesting one, but once they got those early wickets, Australia were just so far behind, right? And it was really hard. And that Maxwell Renshaw partnership was good, but they didn't really they didn't put any pressure back on, right? And when they tried to put pressure on, Maxwell went out almost straight away.
Yeah, I mean, they've shown us that they struggle on these sort of surfaces, in the series versus Pakistan right before the T20 World Cup.
And also India for the last 25 years or 40 years.
There's that as well. And even I remember when I previewed Australia at Pro Sports, I mentioned, they look like a good side if their injuries don't happen or those players recover. And that's another part of this, of course. A lot of their players are injured. Even Mitch Marsh hasn't featured in this T20 World Cup yet. But this is Australia's Achilles heel. Slow pitches and spinners, but wasn't the spinners that, kind of got them out today. I suppose Travis Head does shoot himself in the foot, though, when in a day game, he wins the toss and opts to field first, because we know that the wicket at the Premadasa, it's going to get slower. There won't be any dew. This is a slow pitch, and also the boundary dimensions are massive. It's not a 6-hitting sort of venue. So I think that was a very lousy decision at the end of the day, and that does cost Australia to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think at the same time, you are probably not... Yes, it probably was the wrong decision, but Australia shouldn't be it shouldn't matter whether Australia win the toss or lose the toss or what happens batting first or second, right? If you look at these teams on paper, it's played a part in this, but realistically, I think that's the wrong thing to focus on. I think the thing to focus on is that guys like Cameron Green, Tim Davis playing slightly out of position a little bit as well. I know he started to bat further up the order, and we've talked about it a little bit. Glenn Maxwell's not in career best form, and they don't have their full strength side either. I think that's probably a bigger part to play, and then you put in the slow wicket than this. But you're not wrong. I think it is. There is also a part of it. I did see a couple of people talk about the size of the ground. I mean, the size of the grounds in Australia are massive, right? This is not big compared to an Australian ground. And so, Marcus Stoinis plays at the MCG, right? Yeah. Maxwell plays at the MCG as well. Cameron Green plays at Perth Stadium. These are massive places. But the ball comes on, and you can trust the ball to come on. So, look, I think you're right. But I think that's, at the toss, was anyone saying that Travis Head got it wrong? Or is it something that has happened a bit more when they look like they might lose the game? And I think those are two very different arguments.
I was saying that from the start, but then again, I do agree that Australia just don't apply themselves well today. Like the other day versus Ireland, they played at the same venue and they took twos really well. Zimbabwe takes 16 twos as well in this game, and it's a 4 hitting ground and a 2 accumulating ground, perhaps not a 6 hitting ground, right? And that's what makes Brian Bennett's anchoring knock really fascinating. He scores his half century of 43 deliveries, and he's dropped on 53 by Kuhneman as well, whereas Zimbabwe were brilliant in the field. The Munyonga catch was exceptional. Even
Was
the
that the
drop
one?
catch
Was
of
that
Maxwell.
Dwarshuis?
Yes, I think so. But
The one
even
out of
when
Dean
Maxwell,
Victor,
yeah, even when Maxwell is dropped, that's essentially a 6, right? Like that he's trying to save, and it's a really tough catch. So I think Zimbabwe were exceptional in the field. Australia were a bit sluggish. But coming back to Brian Bennett. 43 ball 50, 64 unbeaten of 56, where his team scores 170. So everyone else scores at like close to 10 runs and over. This guy is trying to whack it, cannot whack it, and it's incredible how, he ends up as top run scorer.
Yeah, it's a fascinating innings from him because it's the kind of innings you would expect that Zimbabwe have a lot of guys who can do that, and he's like almost the last one that we would have on the list of playing that. Him or Secunda are probably the two where you're just like, well, you would never need them to do that kind of innings. But in the end, it's incredibly important. And if you look at this game, it's something that I did a short video on it, and not long after it happened, of they don't have a lot of batting, so Brian Bennett kind of has to come off for them, and then they need the sort of the all-rounders to help out. And did Burl bat in this game? I can't remember.
He did bat in this game. He
right at the
too
end,
bad.
though, wasn't it?
Everyone around Brian Bennett does accelerate. Marumani, Sikandar, Burl, they have decent knocks, and ultimately,
that's right.
because Zimbabwe has won, you can say that this was Schrodinger's Bennett.
I think with Burl as well. Like I've been saying this for a long time. If you look at their batting lineup, I do think they need a lot of runs out of Bennett, Burl, and Secunda, right? And this particular game, they get 120 runs out of those 3 guys. And and then you go, so what's the other way that they're going to win the game, right? Well, they're going to have to take new ball wickets. Well, ding, 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 ding. And then the other thing they do well is they've just got lots of spin options so that they can keep rotating and trying different things and everything else. And I wouldn't say that their spinners destroyed Australia, but they certainly kept it made it very, very hard for Australia to get ahead or even close to 50-50 for some of that time. So if I'm putting down on paper how Zimbabwe win a game, it probably is the 3 batters that made the runs. And I know there was one other guy that made runs as well, but the 3 guys who made the runs. And then it's probably the new ball wickets with a bunch of different bowlers just doing all different roles. And that all worked for them. Like Burl bowls 1 over, right?
Yeah,
but takes...
that over gets Maxwell's wicket.
Yeah, it was
right?
Maxwell. I was trying to remember.
And,
and that was an important wicket because they were about to go, right, Australia, at that point.
And when Maxwell is dropped by Dion Myers on 20, I'm like, oh my God, he's the last guy you drop in these sort of games, even if the ball isn't quite coming onto his bat. And you're like, oh, Sikandar is cramping. Someone's going to have to bowl his overs. So how is Zimbabwe going to, finish up their overs of spin? But then Madhavere bowls pretty decently, I would say. Even though Creamer went for runs, his last over was good. Zimbabwe did problem solve way better than Australia. And if you look at the phase-wise breakdown, Zimbabwe are ahead throughout. Like, they managed 47 for no loss in the power play. Australia lose 4 power play wickets. They're 38 for 4. They're on the back foot there and then. They recover then to 67 for 4 in 10 overs, but Zimbabwe was 79 for 1 in 10 overs. At the 15-over mark, Zimbabwe were 125 for 1, and they actually don't do as well at the death, right? They only end up with 169 for 2, whereas Australia were 114 for 5 at the 15-over mark, and they still had hope. But that's where that catch also comes along by Munyonga. And I mean, did you watch it live? Because this was like box office stuff.
Yeah, but when he hit it, I was like, oh, he's got that away. Because I know the angles on a cricket field, and I can, usually I can tell. And I knew it was close to the fielder, but I was like, he'll get away with that. That's a really good shot. And then suddenly the fielder was there, and I was like, oh my God, he's going to get this. So yeah, I didn't pick that at all. That was absolutely brilliant. And as you said, there were some really good efforts on the boundary to save runs and to save sixes and all sorts of things. So there's a couple of boundaries, that wicket, and there, I reckon at least 2 other boundaries around that period before and after it, where Australia just would have expected boundaries, and instead they lost a wicket and lost that. So I thought that was really, really... I actually felt bad for Ben Dwarshuis because I think he probably hit it exactly where he wanted to, and he still got caught. But yeah, like their efforts, and we've seen that before when they have won games. Quite often in modern times, new ball bowling and fielding has been the thing that has set them apart, right? They really do field very well when they're paying attention. I think they go up and down with their fielding more than other teams, but they have so many like really good fielders.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Bennett took a screamer in the last game as well.
Yep.
So
Sikandar Raza can take a screamer, right? You
Yeah.
know, they've got a lot of guys who are just good outfielders as well. The wicketkeeper as well has done some incredible work. Like they really do have a lot of options in the field. And, you know, if you look at this game, they outbatted, outbowled, and outfielded Australia, right? And you probably wouldn't have thought that coming in. Like, even if you thought they could win, it's pretty unlikely that all three of those things would have happened.
Yeah, I mean, the chevrons are here and they mean business. They have a pretty good shot at making it to the Super 8 round as well. We'll talk about that, though. I want to kind of just cap off the discussion on Australia. None of the batters really come off. Renshaw is the only guy who bats well, and he's probably the best batter in the game as well, considering he gets to his 50 of 34 balls and ends up with 65 of 44. But even if they have a lot of injuries, right, there's still some quality players in here. Travis Head is having a stinker. Right? Josh Inglis was looking good, and he goes out first ball to Muzarabani. And then, you know, Maxwell is supposed to be the experienced head. Stoinis might have been injured at that point, so maybe that's why he doesn't come off. But this has been underwhelming from Australia's batting. And again, it's the slow nature of the surface which kind of does them. Here's an interesting super chat by Faraz on the same thing. He says, was perplexed by Australia's decision to send David at 4, given they had Renshaw, who is adept at playing in that position and consolidate. Poor decision making. You know what's another thing over there for us? Renshaw is known to be a really good player of spin.
I think for us, they just want to hit boundaries and they just want to put pressure back on. And they thought that if David hits 40 off 20, this game is over. And when you're talking about consolidate, they weren't thinking about consolidating. That's not the way they play. And to be fair, India does a similar thing, right? These teams go really, really hard now. It's kind of an older school mentality or a different kind of side that might do that. I get your point, but I don't think you want Renshaw to go in on the 4th over. I think that's probably why it happened. But it's all well and good to say David failed. He didn't fail because of that. He just happened to go out really early on in his innings, right? But you could make the argument that Green had also made a duck, right? So maybe you didn't need to send someone in at that point. But I don't think consolidating was on their mindset. I think they were trying to score. I thought Maxwell looked scrappy, but I also thought that Maxwell was, the Maxwell and Renshaw partnership, they were both going around to run a ball for about 25-ish balls, right? Yeah. But Renshaw just looks a lot more comfortable against the spin at the moment than Maxwell does. And so Maxwell's shots were a lot more risky. Even, there's a couple of times where he tried to play the reverses and everything else. Whereas Renshaw just played a really good innings. The issue with Renshaw is you probably need a Maxwell to go big at the other end for them to win. Yep. And so it's not that it's a bad innings from Renshaw. That's exactly what he is in the side to do. But he needed Maxwell or Stoinis or Dorsius or whoever it may be to hit the 3 or 4 boundaries in a row at one stage and get them back in it. And they didn't get that. And so by the time Maxwell goes out, Renshaw doesn't have the ability to score at the sort of 180, 200 strike rate that they needed. So, I mean, they didn't look pretty good. I mean, let's remember Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, Mitch Marsh. There's issues there before you even look at Head's form and Maxwell's form. Yeah,
absolutely. And
it's not a very good bowling lineup, is it? I mean, if Engarava's playing, who's got the better bowling lineup out of these two teams? It's probably
it's definitely Zimbabwe because Engarava was in form. He was really, really good in that game that they played. Yeah. Was it versus Oman? I think it was versus Oman. At this point, I don't even remember which game was what because there've been so many. We're getting triple headers every day. But you're right to say that Australia's bowling attack is slightly underwhelming. I think Nathan Ellis is a really good bowler and he does do well at the death over there, but he goes for plenty at the start. Zampa has a really bad day. In fact, Australia's best bowler today was a combination of Stoinis and Cam Green. Stoinis bowled a power play over, concedes 3 runs, then comes back after the power play to take Marumani's wicket, and he goes off the field after taking 1 for 17 in 2.5 overs because the ball hits his thumb, flush on the thumb. And I'm thinking now, have they lost Stoinis as well? Because this is going to be detrimental. But he does come out to bat, did not look comfortable. Cam Green had conceded 6 runs in an over. He completed that over to bowled one
Yeah.
delivery and got a wicket. So those two combined for 2 for 23, and that's Australia's best bowler, which is like their 5th/6th bowler. And that tells you the
Also,
story.
I mean, if you want the story, isn't the story if you're opening the bowling with Marcus Stoinis that your World Cup's gone to shit beforehand, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't mind Marcus Stoinis bowling just after the power play. I like his bounces. I like the way he thinks about bowling and everything. But if he's opening the bowling for you, I mean, I don't. It's just not. It's not what you want, right? And it's not even that he bowled the surprise first over, because someone else bowled the first over, didn't they? Dorcius bowled the first over, so it's. I don't know. To me, that just says this is a team that doesn't even know what's going on. And we've seen that with Australian World Cups before, and then everything comes together and it's fine. But they just don't have the talent to be able to do that at the moment. And as you said, if Stoinis can't play in the next game, they have less talent again.
Yeah, then Cooper Connolly will have to play, and they've got a must-win game now coming up versus Sri Lanka in Colombo at the Premadasa Monday night, and that's do or die for Australia, because Zimbabwe are probably going to win the Ireland game. I think that's a pretty fair sort of assumption to make.
Wow,
It's going to be tough
it's
work.
funny. I had a bunch of messages from Australians about that, and I was like, I don't know, because I don't think Zimbabwe's that much better than Ireland.
Well, I actually think Zimbabwe can defeat Sri Lanka.
I mean, they could beat both of those sides, right?
Yeah.
I think who's the other group? The other team in their group is Oman. So I'd be absolutely shocked if Oman beat Zimbabwe. But to be fair, I was pretty shocked that Italy beat Nepal as well. So, but I'd be really shocked if Oman beat Zimbabwe. Those other two games, if they lost both of them, I don't think I'd be massively shocked. And if they won both of them, I don't think I'd be massively shocked. So probably 50-50 is their best chance out of those two games, looking at everything. But they're confident, right? And they're winning games, so good on them.
Yeah. And Ben Curran is in the squad because Brendan Taylor's gotten injured. That might be a blessing in disguise. It would have been funny if Brendan Taylor was featuring in this game, because he was there in 2007 as well. And I'm not sure if Graham Creamer was there, because it seems like Graham Creamer, we've been seeing him since eons. But
Yeah, he's
this
been
is a
around
fun
for ages.
super chat by Abhijit Shivanandan. He asks, was Marumani's innings the most important one? You know what? He maximizes the power play, where Ben Curran is going at less than run a ball, and he does rattle Australia.
Not Ben
a bit.
Curran.
So
Ben Curran would have gone at less than a run a ball, but I think you mean Brian Bennett.
I meant Brian Bennett. I just
I mean,
had
Ben
in
Curran
my
might
head.
have gone at like a 50 strike rate.
But yeah, I think there's a good claim that it was the most impactful innings, because it gives Zimbabwe a launching pad.
Yeah, he got stuck, didn't he? And to be fair, everyone got stuck on this. And it might have been his hitting, just to go back to the other question that Faraz had before, it might have been his hitting that actually made Australia think that the power play was the best time to try and score on that wicket. And so sending Tim David in was, let's get him in there. If he hits, as I said before, 3 or 4 boundaries in a row, gets himself to 30 or 40, he can maybe crack this chase and we're fine from then on in. But yeah, look, it was, I mean, all 4 of the batters were important in different ways. Burl made sure, Burl didn't get the ball away. He can hit him, right? He didn't get the
Burl
ball
bowls
away.
that over as well. He contributes with the ball. He gets.
But I'm talking
excellent.
about the 4 batters. If you look at them, they all kind of did their job in a way that, outside of Renshaw and Maxwell, up until a point, Australia only had 2 guys. Sometimes you look at a scorecard and you go, if you've only lost 2 wickets, you haven't really maximized the innings. But I think thinking about this pitch and the way that Brian Bennett was trying to hit everything, I think they probably did get the most runs that they could have out of it.
Yeah, and before you go to the next super chat, there is no way we don't talk about the fast bowlers, because that's, in all honesty, that's where we should have probably started. Let's make no mistake of the fact that Australia have been blessed today at the Premadasa in Colombo. Blessing Muzarabani, all 6 foot 8 feet of him. He came to bowl in the second over of the game, dismisses Josh Inglis' first ball. Then he bounces out Tim David with the second ball of his second over. Is taken off after the 2 overs in the power play. His figures read 2 for 12. And actually, he bowls 3 overs in the power play. So 2 for 12 in 3 overs. Comes back, dismisses Renshaw with the 4th ball of his 4th over, and then hits the base of Zampa's stump. So ends up with 4 for 17, completing 100 wickets in T20 internationals.
Yeah.
And 4 for 17 is also his career best. Also runs away with the Player of the Match award. What a performance. And he really got the memo right. I need to bowl back of a length over here, because the bounce is kind of spongy. Let's try to get these guys out. And they really succumb to that plan. Australia.
I've been saying for ages, he's just an incredible new ball bowler, which is why, like, when Engarava's playing, it's like, I have no problem with Engarava taking the new ball because he swings it more, even though I think both of them should be taking the first over. I'm not sure why Sikandar Raza is taking the new ball. I'm not sure that's the direction I would have taken this, but look, he's a brilliant new ball bowler, and I mean a very new ball bowler. The first few overs, it's Test cricket, one-day cricket, T20 cricket. He really is an elite player at that point of the game. And he's getting smarter as he gets older as well in the other parts of the game. They don't suit him as much, but he's so talented, this guy. He can swing it. He can seam it. He's quite accurate. He's fast enough for someone 6'8". Like, he's not express. He's not Morne Morkel 6'7" or whatever Morne was.
I mean, he looks
about
Marco Janssen's height, right? Marco Janssen and Blessing Muzarabani are the same height, but somehow it feels like Muzarabani's release point is higher. It's probably because of his action, the way it's so front on.
Yeah, they say he's 6'8". I've stood next to him. I'd be shocked if he's 6'8". He feels 6'9", 6'10" to me. But it could just be that he might have just long arms, right? And he really is a ridiculous athlete. And so talented. The ball he got a wicket in Oman, and everyone was going on about how the batter was on the back foot because of the
Jatinder wicket, where he nips it back and cleans him up.
But like, that ball, I'm not sure how many people in world cricket would play that, even if they were on the front foot. Maybe your best case scenario is you get an inside edge onto your pad with that ball, right? So he really is so talented. And Brad Evans, who not quite as quick, but skiddy, a different kind of bowler. It's actually quite fascinating. The three quicks that they have at the moment are very different skill sets, right? And they play together quite well. Yeah. There's always going to be a day when the pitch doesn't suit one of them, but it's probably going to suit the other two.
Yeah, and I have actually watched a lot of Zimbabwean cricket leading up to this T20 World Cup because they just played a tri-series versus Pakistan as well. And Brad Evans is that sort of guy who is very volatile. He's either going for 57 runs in his 4 overs, or he's actually annihilating you, right? And today, that's what he does.
He's got that sort of Mohammad Siraj skidding onto the bat thing, right? Where if you can get sideways movement, that's impossible to play. But if it goes dead straight, people just play through the line and you end up getting hammered. And I think that's kind of what happens to him.
Yeah, I mean, he removes Cam Green with his 5th delivery. Then in his 2nd over, 3rd ball, he gets Travis Head to chop on. So that's kind of what you're talking about. 2 for 11 in 2 power play overs, comes back to get rid of Dwarshies. And his 3 for 23 in 3.3 overs may not be as well as or as good as Blessing Muzarabani, because Muzarabani is destroyer in chief, but he had company, and I really love the way the Zimbabwean team is shaping up. The only issue is that if they lose quick wickets when they're batting, they won't stand much of a chance. But they're doing well with the ball and in the field, which are their strong points. We have a super chat by KSHMR Beard, who asks, it's Wellington Masakadza, Madhavera not in this squad. Oh, I'm sorry if I must have mispronounced or misspoken. I meant Wellington Masakadza, and I think he did all right today.
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought he bowled okay in the other game too.
Yeah. Shiva asks, what will happen to Australia after Pat, Hazelwood, Stark eventually retire? Does Australia have any paces to match their level in their arsenal? Well, Scotty Boland in Test cricket, but in white ball cricket, they're looking at Bartlett and Ellis. And Ellis is 31, Jared. I had no idea.
Yeah, he's been around for a long time. Look, Ellis is a good player, and he works, but you have to have the right bowls around him. We've seen this in the IPL, right? He doesn't play enough in the IPL, but that's a different conversation. But even with Australia, I've had some conversations with the Australian setup at times. They really like him, but he has to be with the right bowlers. So you kind of want him with. It's a shame for Australia that, Jason Behrendorff isn't coming through at the moment, right? Because Jason Behrendorff would take the overs at the top, Alice would take them at the bottom, and then they could work out who fits around them. Look, Jai Richardson will be fit again soon, but he's also, late 20s, 30-ish at the moment. They are
Spencer Johnson? He's old though too, right? And very injury prone.
He's old, he's injury prone. He struggled a little bit in Asian wickets, so he's done very well in England and Australia. They're very excited with their younger crop coming through. And the last time they were really excited with the younger crop coming through, it was the people that you're mentioning there and Pattinson, who still could have been a beast, but obviously the injuries never allowed him to do that. So potentially we're about to see another crop come through that is very good, but that's 3, 4, 5 years away before we see them consistently. I'm not sure about Bartlett, but he's certainly not a bad bowler. So no, they've got some issues. They've got issues in all 3 formats at the moment because they've got an older side and they've got some holes.
Yeah, Marley Bateman is an up-and-coming bowler, fast bowler from Australia, so maybe they go to him next in the
Yeah,
next
they've got
cycle.
guys also like Morris and Riley Meredith, and I know a lot of those guys haven't come off yet, but they're going to get more opportunities, and there is some talent there, but replacing three incredible bowlers is not particularly easy.
No, absolutely not. But I think that pretty much sums up the best game of the day where Zimbabwe defeated Australia and finally gave us the first upset. There is one super chat that we can take before we move to our break by Vibhor Seth. He asks, can Zimbabwe do in India 1983? Is that equivalent? I don't think that's equivalent, man. Like, no.
As I said,
cannot.
almost everything went right today, and they beat Australia, who was also not really suited to that. And it, as Bayram said, also maybe got the toss slightly wrong.
Yeah.
That would have to happen almost in every game. Their batting, Zimbabwe's batting just isn't very strong. Losing 2 wickets today, again, was a huge help for them. They're not going to lose 2 wickets every T20 game. That's just not how it works.
Yeah, anyway, we've got 2 more games to review on Commbox Live tonight. So go nowhere. You with Jared and Bayram, and we'll be back after a very, very short break.
Cricket fans are smarter than ever before. But what they're offered is clickbait, lazy punditry, and SEO noise. Commbox is for people who actually love the game. Smarter analysis, real conversations. Commbox, the game lives on.
Welcome back to Commbox Live. You guys are with Jared and Bayram, and we're going to go in reverse order today. We'll go to the USA-Netherlands game last. Let's go towards UAE versus Canada, which was quite an exciting game, actually. The UAE ultimately defeated Canada by 5 wickets and 2 balls to spare. It seemed like Canada's game to lose, Jared. I mean, they really had the UAE on the back foot.
Yes. I mean, I don't rate Canada, but I don't want to slag off your team, but I do rate them pretty low. I think UAE got behind the rate, is what I would say. And I still thought UAE would come home. I didn't really expect it to be all kind of one guy. But it was a brilliant innings. Did you see his eyes, by the way? Sohaib's eyes.
Yeah, Sohaib is an attractive dude.
I mean, he's an attractive dude, but he's got like a Zoolander stare, right? Like it's it looked like he had eye makeup on. His eyes are so perfect. It's ridiculous. And so it's so funny watching him and just going, oh, well, they're screwed. Yeah, so I always thought that they were a chance of coming back. I think the thing that bothered me from a Canadian point of view is probably just how easy it was in the end. They really did. They really came back. I know they won with only 2 balls to spare, but that was because they were kind of stuffing around a little bit at the end, and he went out, right? And so it took slightly longer than it should have. But I do think UAE is the better side. But Canada, if you're Canada, you've got to be thinking that you're ahead of this game for a long period of time, right?
I mean, if you look at the phase breakdown, they're fairly equal in the power play, right? Canada's just lost extra wickets. They're 39 for 3, UAE's 39 for 1. But they're on 10 over mark, Canada 71 for 3, UAE 59 for 2. They're behind, right? 106 for 4 is where Canada were at in 50 or at the 15 over mark. And that's where the UAE were really struggling. 88 for 4, and you're thinking, all right, that's a lot of runs, over, 50 runs in the last 5 overs, or over 60 runs, in fact, in the last 5 overs. And that's where I thought, okay, Canada might pull this off. But then Sohaib Khan happens, 51 of 29. The way he takes, Haliger and Kaleem Sana apart. And Kaleem Sana was having a terrific game, Jared. In 3 power play overs, he'd conceded taken 1 for 11, goes for 18 runs in the penultimate over, even bowls that new ball to end with
I think him and Haliger were both doing okay, weren't they, until that last over? I think they were both, not last over, but towards the end, I thought they were both doing pretty well, right? And
even though Haliger is such a weird bowler, he's going to bowl like 78 miles per hour nude nuts, but he had held his length pretty well. And all of a sudden
he hits the pitch really hard. He's really strong. And I've talked to associate players. It does. So he struggles when he plays the top teams, but when he plays the associate teams, he does hit the pitch really, really hard. But he doesn't have a lot of tricks, Haliger. It's literally hitting the pitch is his trick.
And he stops doing that. He starts to bowl in the slot and full
Yeah.
to Sohaib Khan, who loves it when the ball is full, right? Because he hits brilliantly down the ground and over cow corner. His 51 of 29 is what wins UAE the game ultimately, because the guy at the other end, Aryan Sharma, he's totally anchoring it, right? 41 ball 50 and then unbeaten on 74 of 53. At one point, I was like, has Aryan Sharma cost them this game, right? Because they're way behind.
I did wonder how much this to me looked like when you just don't know who the player is and you don't know much about them. And, you know, there's probably two mistakes that Canada make at the end. The first one is not knowing anything about him. And he made, 50 today, and he's made 70 runs in his international career. He's played like 12 top-level games. Like, no one knows. And he'd never made any runs before, right? Like, I don't think... I'm not making a mistake here, am I? He made... about 250 runs in all cricket before, including today. So he'd made 200 runs before. So no one had any...
He's tripled his tally of runs, essentially.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, right? So tripled his T20 runs, for sure.
Yeah.
And so you don't have a lot of information, that's fine. But I do think, and I can't remember who the commentators were, but whoever the commentator was, I remember hearing him say, probably got to go into the wicket here. And they went to Yorkers. And you see this with a lot of associate teams. They just default to Yorkers because that is what it is drilled into them.
Yeah.
But actually, having watched a lot of associate cricket, bowling into the wicket is quite often the better option. And I know he got, I think it was off Haliger, he got a top edge over the top of the keeper's head.
Yeah.
And you could see them go, oh, we can't even do this. And I'm like, no, that is not a good shot. Like, he's gotten away with that. Compared that to how he was hitting the ball down the ground, right? Where it looked like he could hit anything he wanted down the ground, make him beat you, even to the point at which, especially with Haliger, but both of their seamers, put out third man, deep backward point, and just bounce him, right? And just say, we're just going to try something different. But as I said, they don't know who he is.
Make him hit square of the wicket, make him cut, make him pull, do those things, right? Don't let him swing through the arc. And I feel like Kaleem Sana had done so well. 1 for 11 in 3 power play overs was insane. And then they required 28 or 26 runs when he comes to bowl the penultimate over. And I told Saad, I was watching this game with him at Pro Sports, I was like, all right, Kaleem Sana just needs to give 8 to 9 runs in this over, and maybe Jaskaran Deep can defend 17 to 18, right? This is still Canada's game. And Kaleem Sana bowls a no ball as well. He concedes 18 runs and 1 for 29. That's really bad if you were 1 for 11 in 3 overs. And Haliger I'll still let go of, right? Because he just goes off length for some weird reason. But Kaleem Sana is supposed to be the really experienced guy over here. Is he not?
Look,
The left arm quick?
Yeah, no, of course. And he's a really good bowler, right? I mean, we've seen him bowl really well before. I think the real issue is, and this is, I have, the power list will come out tomorrow, but I have Canada as 19th.
Yeah,
and the real issue that they have is that they basically have 2 bowlers, right? So Haliger is, as I said, on certain wickets really works quite well. So he's like 2.5. And then they've got a bunch of guys who I'm not sure are this level quality of bowlers. This isn't the team that was really good in 2024, right? It's not quite the same level. And a guy like Haliger is like the now let me see if I can get this right. Odean Smith. He's like the Odean Smith, right?
They're even built similarly.
Yeah, they're both West Indian as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Although I think one's from Guyana. But they're very similar kind of players in that when you have a good side, Haliger is a difference maker, right? Like, he faced 1 ball today. How did he go on that 1 ball?
Yeah, he smashed a 6.
Right? And I've seen so many associate games, and he could do this against good teams as well. For about 5 or 6 balls, he can cause all sorts of carnage, right? When Haliger hits the ball, like, he's so big, it just disappears, right? But you can't bat him in the top 7. He doesn't have the skills to bat in the top 7, right? And it's the same with him with the ball. If he's your 3rd best bowler, right? And maybe you could say 4th best bowler, depending on, it's just, you want him to be at best your 5th best bowler or even your 6th best bowler, and you just use him when it works. And that's the problem with Canada at the moment. They have these 2 fantastic bowlers, right? One of which is also an all-rounder. So they have a huge advantage there. And then they don't have a lot out. And if they're not getting a big tournament out of Curtin, right? They don't, like, Curtin is the difference maker, because Curtin is a guy who probably should be playing a slightly higher level of cricket than for a Canada team in general. And if they don't have that, they just get a bit stuck with the bat, and then they struggle to defend it because they don't have enough. I mean, they've lost a game today when what was his figures? Syed bin Safar's figures, 4 overs, 3 for 14.
Yeah,
I mean,
you got a feel for the guy.
You can't ask for much more from your star player than doing that. And he can hold the bat as well. He can help them with the bat. I didn't do much today, but he came down the order a little bit. But
I'll give you a fun anecdote of Saad bin Zafar, right? And
Yeah.
he is a really, really experienced campaigner. He gets to play franchise T20 cricket as well. In fact, Lockie broke his record when Lockie took none for 4 and 4 overs. Saad bin Zafar was none for 3 and 4 overs. He held that record, and I remember congratulating him because I knew the guy in Canada. I've done a show with him as well on cricket, and he is just a very disciplined dude who takes his cricket really, really seriously.
Yeah.
His bowling was very disciplined as well. I mean, 3 for 14 were the best figures in this entire game. And you
almost
feel
never
for the
bowls
guy.
a bad ball. Almost never
Yeah.
bowls a bad ball. He's so disciplined.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought of leaving him a message had they won, and then I was like, nah, man, not after a loss. I'm not doing that, right? The other guy,
But that
who did
just
well for
shows you,
Canada-
doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
how much of their bowling is dependent on 2 guys, and they are really good. The issue is just the drop off.
Yeah,
right?
It is an
And-
insane drop off.
You know, those guys have to be in career best form. You almost need those 2 guys in career best form, Curtin in career best form, and Haylegger being the floating player, right? Because I'm not saying all the other players are terrible. They can all chip in, but they need their 4 sort of difference makers to be difference makers every single game, right?
Yeah, I mean, they could have bowled out the left arm wrist spinner. He had just been smashed for 1-6 by Sohaib, right? They could have probably bowled him out. That's something they didn't do. And Dilpreet, I guess, is a young captain. And they had some senior members in this team. Like Saad bin Zafar himself has been a former captain of Canada. So maybe there was some inexperience in the decision making and they perhaps crumbled. But you know what? For all the flack that associate teams get for fielding poorly, this was a great fielding game. Nicholas Curtin, as you mentioned, he took so many catches, right? It seems like, it felt like he was taking every catch. And even for the UAE, there's just that one drop, which really isn't a drop. It really, literally, like almost breaks Wasim's hand, right? When he drops Samra on 3, or is it? But I think the fielding was fantastic. It was a really high quality game to watch, I think, in the sense that it got close and you saw some decent cricket, albeit obviously flawed cricket, because I mean, they got to 150 Canada. That wasn't ever going to be enough because UAE do play more regularly than them. And Harsh Thakur's 50 or 41 is the reason they get there. He scores 1/3 of the run. So I suppose they are probably 19th. You take them over Oman, but not higher than that.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I have it at the moment. I think if I'm UAE, I'm probably disappointed that this had to come down to the point that it did for me to win the game. Like, I just think that they should be looking at Canada at the moment and going, well, I don't have my list in front of me. Where do I have them in this? I don't have them ranked that much higher than Canada, but I have them in a different tier, right? And I was a little bit disappointed again with the side that we have seen in this tournament. But just having a look at Canada's bowlers in the last 2 years, Kaleem's taken 38 wickets and Saeed's taken 37. So what's that, about 75 wickets? I don't reckon their next 5 bowlers combined have 75 wickets. It
And
really
I mean, they
is.
also won the toss. So they had that advantage where they opted
Yeah.
to bat first, which I think was the fair call. But you mentioned how Canada don't have enough good bowlers. They've got 2 really good guys, and everyone else after that is just very, very mediocre. But UAE, I've followed them a lot as well recently because they just happened to play a tri-series versus Pakistan and Afghanistan, right? Haider Ali is a really, really good slow left armer. I quite like him. Not at Saad bin Zafar's level, obviously, but he bowled 2 power play overs, none for 11, and went for none for 29. And I remember in the New Zealand game, everyone was going for runs, but Haider Ali was the guy who was the only person who was economical. And then the seamers did well. The left arm quick comes up, bowls the 6th over, strikes first ball, ends with 1 for 14. Javadullah, he was quite good. And then Junaid Siddiqui is the guy who went for quite a bit of money in the ILT20. He does go for runs, but he's a wicket taker and takes 2 for 17 and 2 power play overs, ends with 5 for 35, the second fifer after Romario in this T20 World Cup, and he's player of the match. So I feel that on a good day, the UAE could actually challenge Afghanistan.
I think their bowling's a little bit thin to consistently do that against the better sides. but they do have a bowling attack, right?
Yeah.
If we're comparing the two of these sides, and also Mohammad Wasim can win them games at the top, right? That's a big difference.
I take their bowling attack ahead of their batting order because I know Sohaib comes really good today. But when they generally lose both of Sharafu and Wasim early on, there's not a lot of quality in depth. And Asif isn't in this team. Where'd that guy go? He was a pretty good dude.
But the point being is that because they have the ability, I think if you're going to win games and you're an associate side, your best way of doing that is winning them up front with the bat or the ball, right? Putting pressure on, right? Essentially what Zimbabwe did against Australia. Don't lose any wickets early on, get a couple of boundaries, and then take wickets yourself, right? And so I think if you're an associate team, and I think that UAE are quite set up well for that. They have multiple game winners, and then they have a higher quality of sort of role players than a team like Canada does.
Fair enough. All right, before we move on to the next game, Jared, there are 3 super chats that we can take real quickly before we go on an ad break. So let's bring them up on the screen. First up, we have... I'm delaying. He's working on it. I'll do it.
No, they're coming up. I'm just trying to work out if there was... Oh, now you pressed the wrong
we've done
one.
this one. Yeah, it's the SHS one. Yep. SHS4293 asks, do Indian players lack physical strength? They've been dominant for ages now, but it doesn't feel like they own the game like the Windies did in the 1980s or the Australians in the 2000s. It's due to their food intake or something. Dude, this Indian T20 team might be the best T20 team assembled ever. That's where I was at. Jared has said that they're playing a different sport to everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, they're different kinds of physicality than some of those other teams.
Core strength.
They seem to be hitting a lot of sixes to me.
Yep.
But do you really... I don't really understand that question. I mean, they're different kind of athletes. They should be different, Australians and West Indians are different kinds of athletes to each other as well. That's a natural thing.
Yeah. Anyway, next super chat is Shiva Subramaniam, who asks, calling the T20 World Cup as Cricket World Cup feels more accurate than ODI World Cup. More teams participate, more competitive games, but ODI World Cup is a competition of 5 teams. I do kind of agree with that because A, you can grow the sport more efficiently via T20 cricket. Because it's a volatile format, you get more close games, whereas some ODIs you just cannot watch. You know it's over in the first 20 overs, and now you've got 80 more to go. And yeah, I mean, I think that more representation, higher level of competition in terms of like games being better, I think you're onto something.
Do you think we should rename the ODI World Cup then to the World ODI? Because the original name of the T20 World Cup was World T20.
You're going to piss off a lot of 90s cricket fans, Jack.
Can I just say, though, that pissed me off from the start of this. Like, it's clearly a World Cup. Just call it a fucking World Cup. Don't fuck around. Like, right? Like, we all know you're going to call it a World Cup one day. And I'm the only person who's going to remember this. And I'm going to be angry about it for 20 years, apparently.
All right, there's one more by Ribhu Ganguly, who says, coming back to cricket after a year, can you catch me up on why Renshaw is playing cricket again and why is Will Jacks batting so low? England look at Will Jacks as their number 7 and Renshaw has had a brilliant BBL and he's a good player of spin. They need one of those.
Yeah, essentially Renshaw realised he was going to struggle to get back into the test team and he started working on his T20 game. And the last 2 years, we've actually, I don't know if the video's out yet, but the Shy Hope video on our main channel, you'll be able to see on the main Good Areas channel. We actually talk about Renshaw. So he's peaked, and he's a really good player of spin, as Bayram said. They were looking for someone like that.
And he's a left-hander, which you always need in the middle order.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
And I think with Will Jacks, they kind of think he can bat at the top or the end. They're not as sure on him in the middle. And so they've got the guys for the top that they want to have ahead of him. But yeah, look, we talked about this a lot with Will Jacks of England will just find a way to misuse him any way they can.
Yeah, he's been looking like, a villain from the Home Alone movie series who's trying real hard to kidnap Macaulay Culkin, but is failing religiously. I made that joke with Rob as well. I don't know why I repeated it, but that's my honest feelings about Will Jacks.
I was here.
Yeah.
Rob would have liked it.
Yeah, and I mean, Jared has already made comments about how his hair is just too white. Anyway, that's it for this game. That's also it for the super chats. So one more game to review. You guys are watching Commbox.
Cricket fans are smarter than ever before. But what they're offered is clickbait, lazy punditry, and SEO noise. Commbox is for people who actually love the game. Smarter analysis, real conversations. Commbox, the game lives on.
Welcome back to Commbox Live. You guys are with Jared and Behram, and this is 2 days in a row now that Jared has abruptly played an ad on
I
me.
just think you should be handling the ads yourself. I don't know why you don't, because it's so hard to time it on someone else's thing.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, I might do the ads later on. All right, the USA had a pretty big game versus the Netherlands tonight. We were all excited for it because I didn't know where to place them. I thought that they were fairly on an equal level. Maybe the Netherlands were higher for me because those players get more exposure and they have more experience. But the USA smashed the Dutch by 93 runs in Delhi. Oh, sorry, Chennai. It was a flat Chennai deck for the longest part. Up until the second innings where the ball started to turn, Jared. Finally, the ball turned at Chipok.
Yeah, maybe it would be funny if this is the moment when that all changes. That might be the biggest narrative from this game. But look, the USA were in charge of it for a long time. I thought around, I'm having to go back through it a little bit, but I thought around the, around the 13th over, I thought all they needed was a couple of tight overs there, maybe a wicket, and they could have changed it for the USA. And it's instead, Netherlands just kind of got loose, and there was 2 big overs, 26 runs for 2 overs. And by the time they fought back, it was too late. And then they had a big end as well with the USA. They just felt like they could find a boundary or two pretty easily at the end. And I don't know how you felt, but I was like, well, they've probably just scored too many runs here.
Honestly,
it would have been a tough chase.
My family was watching the game with me because I was back from pro sports for this one. And I usually leave pro sports in between of the second and third game so I don't miss any action. And when USA score 196, everyone's asking me, what's up? I'm like, oh, Chipok doesn't turn anymore. Maybe this is a pass score because this has been a flat deck. And I actually thought Scotty Edwards made the right call when he won the toss and opted to field first because I was like, yeah, you surely chase here. That backfired. And who would have thought, who would have thunk that it'll start turning?
Yeah, and also one of the things that happens, and India's going through this as well at the moment. But and I remember Australia in the 2012 T20 World T20. I'm going to call it its official name at that time, if I remember correctly. It happened with Shane Watson. Sometimes when you get an opener who's so dominant and changes things so quickly, you get to a point where there's this lack of energy that happens after he goes out. And Michael Levitt has become that guy, right? Michael Levitt, when he goes nuts for the Netherlands, just completely changes games for them. And when he went out for 3 off 7 as well, I just thought, this looks tricky. But then Baz Delita came in and was batting fine, but they just kept losing wickets, right? Someone like Colin Ackerman, who's brilliant at just knocking the ball around and staying in forever, he faced the ball? Yeah, it was first ball. Just hit it straight to mid wicket and was gone. Right? Again, one of these, Van Schalkwijk slow balls. And suddenly, and then Baz Delita went out not long after that, and it was gone so early in the game. Like if you look at time, I think when Baz Delita goes out, was he the 5th wicket or the 4th wicket? He's the 4th wicket, and it's in the 7th over. Right?
Yeah. Even after the power play, the Netherlands or the Dutch had lost 3 wickets. They were 53 for 3, which was not too far off USA. They were 51 for... Netherlands were 51 for 3. USA were 53 for 1. So I was like, okay, they've lost a couple of extra wickets, but they could catch up over here because I was still not convinced that it's going to turn. And then Harmeet comes along, right? He actually did start in the power play, took 1 for 6 in 1 power play over, and then just literally annihilated the Dutch single-handedly. 4 for 21, had a poor outing versus Pakistan. We know he's a good player. He's even played in the IPL, runs away with the Player of the Match award as well. I think they just struggled to play Harmeet today, and that's kind of where they lost it entirely. Other bowlers did well as well, which we'll come to, but he was the star of the show, although not my Player of the Match. That was someone else.
Okay, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Look, I've said this before. Harmeet on these kinds of wickets, he's more of a slider than a spinner, and so if he's very accurate and he comes in very low and he's very clever. He's obviously he can hold the bat a little bit as well. So he almost thinks a little bit more like a batter, I think, at times when he's bowling than anything else. But his ability on a wicket like this really brings him into the game a lot more, and he's very good at angles and all those sorts of things. So give him a little bit of spin and a little bit of stop on the wicket, and I think he's a much harder player to play. I've seen him I've seen him bowl in minor league cricket in America when there's a little bit of stopping on the wicket, it makes him allows him to slide one through and then just put that little bit of extra rev on it, and it's like a natural variation that helps him because he's not going to get masses of bounce and he's not going to get as much spin as other bowlers who are trying to really turn it a lot.
It's interesting, Babar Azam took him down, which I did not see coming because Babar sucks versus slow left armers. And I knew that, this guy is quality and he comes off today. But my player of the match was someone who I had no idea of. I did not know of this player at all. That 21-year-old kid called Sai Teja Mukamala. My word, what a fantastic knock. 30 ball 50, 79 or 51. And the way he hit down the ground was brilliant. Those couple of shots plus that 6 over extra cover. I mean, that was the shot of the game for me. And he also was a good cutter of the ball, square of the wicket. It was such a delightful knock to watch. And I mean, I'm guessing he's probably gone to an academy or something in India, even though he's born in New Jersey. I know that Rob Barron was mentioning his name.
I thought he was a local boy. I could be wrong. He might have played some cricket in India, but my understanding was because they're being excited. I'm surprised you hadn't heard of him before, actually, because he's the one that everyone's been talking about for quite some time now. And
he has a terrific T20 record and an even better T20I record. I was looking at the numbers: 35 at 145 in all T20s, and I think 40 at 150 in T20Is, which probably got a bump today after his 79 or 51.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw him make 100 in ODI cricket as well, although I can't remember who that was against or why I was watching that game. He's been talked up for a long time within American cricket, and he got dropped for the previous game.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure PDP was like, "What is happening here?" Because I don't know what his ceiling is as a T20 player. His numbers, as you said, at the moment are really, really good. But he's obviously a very talented player, as in one-day cricket might end up being where he's at his best. I think he averages about 40 in one-day cricket at the moment as well. He's just really, really talented. It'll be fascinating to see kind of in which direction he goes. But yeah, why he wasn't playing in the last game, we'd have to talk to the coaching staff and get a better understanding of. But he's a really, really, really good player. And I thought that was a fantastic innings today. And he's probably the one who takes it away, isn't he? I know.
Yeah, that's why I would have given him the Player of the Match award, because he's the reason the USA get to 196 for, 6 in 20 overs? And I mean, it's not like he was slogging, Jared.
Yeah, Ranjani.
He wasn't slogging.
No. Because Ranjani innings kind of comes on the back of his, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's what I was saying before, the non-slogging. It's that he's a very technically sound player, and he's very good at the way he goes about it. But yeah, and Ranjani did very well at the end, but that was more T20 hitting towards the end of the innings at that stage. And as you said, it had been set up. But the combination of both of them was really, really good. Their batting's great. I had a friend ask me the other day, what I thought, and I said, I really like their batting. I think there's a lot of, even without Aaron Jones, who's a fantastic player himself.
True.
There's a lot of options that they had. And if we've talked about with the UAE, you get a couple of wickets early on, right? We talked about Canada, you get past that top 4. This isn't the case with this side. They have lots of batting available to them at various times. Even someone like Harmeet, who I don't think he made any in this game, did he?
No.
But
I mean,
he made one. He can hit him as well.
Yeah, I was just really enamored by how Mukamala was not trying to slog, and he was smashing those balls on merit. And even though they were aerial hits, they was just like, he was so aesthetically pleasing, especially the 6 over extra cover, that he was a proper sight for sore eyes. But Shubham Ranjan is someone who's been fantastic throughout this T20 World Cup. He did well versus India with both bat and ball. He was the one who scored that 50 versus Pakistan, and today unbeaten 48 of 24, I think. So he really accelerates towards the death, and he also bowls an over in which he concedes just 4 runs. So maybe some franchise T20 gigs coming up for him. I've been really impressed, and I feel like he also has a really uplifting spirit. I was watching him in the field talking to the other guys. Yeah, he's always motivating his teammates.
No, we need that on the graphics on the TV. What is their uplifting spirit? His is 98. Who's the most curmudgeon player who's like 12 or something, right? Like Jimmy Anderson's like a 12. So USA, the other thing I want to say about their batting is this is a really, really big total against a good bowling attack, right? And they did really kick this. Aaron Dutt never came back on, right? They had some issues against this.
They
batting lineup.
completely butchered roll-off, right?
Yep. But the reason I'm pointing this out is their most talented batter also didn't. Not only did Aaron Jones not play, their second most talented batter didn't bat either. Andres Hus was not involved in this game, right? Did he get injured? Did I see him get injured in another game?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even pick up on that up until you mentioned it. Shayan Jahangir was keeping wicket today, which is a bit odd, and Hus wasn't around.
I've got a feeling that he was injured, and I remember seeing it happen and thinking to myself at the time, oh, he may not play again. But I can't remember what happened. I just remember having like a mental note of, oh, I need to follow that up, which of course I did not. But
Why
yeah,
are all these players dropping like flies, man? We've got like umpteen injuries already.
I do feel that's the sort of thing we say at every World Cup, though. Like, it's just that there's so much cricket being played. This is probably just the normal amount of injuries. But yeah, just to get back to my point, the fact that they've made almost 200, they probably should have got over 200 in the end. I think just tells you again of like the talent. You know, Milan Kumar is an all-rounder for them. Probably averages around 25, 30. And he's batting at what, 7 maybe? And Harmeet bats at 8, and Harmeet can whack him. A lot of talent in that side when it comes to batting. And then the bowling, you know, they've got some really good bowlers as well. Like Ali Khan and Harmeet, again, are very, very good. And it doesn't drop off. You know, they've got the LinkedIn kid as well. And, you know, they've got lots of different options available to them with the ball.
They didn't even play Netravalkar, who's
I was going to say, he didn't play today, did he?
Yeah. He's gone for 1 billion runs already in this T20 World Cup.
No, but we know he can bowl is the point I'm making. Like, I mean, again, the fact that they can drop him, you know, Van Schalkwijk has bowled really... Van Schalkwijk is probably, you know, one of the most informed slow ball bowlers in the world at the moment. Moshin got an absolute tinny-ass wicket today with his wrong-un, but he's bowled some really good balls at times in this tournament as well. Like, there's a lot to like about them as a team.
If you look at their performances in all 3 games, Mohammad Mohsin, who I apparently had food with a month and a half ago, and I didn't even know who he was, and now I'm happy that I shared a dinner table with him. 1 for 16 versus India, 1 for 27 versus Pakistan, and 2 for 19 today in 3 overs. And he's bowling the wrong gun like you bowled the wrong gun, which gets you wickets as well. And then Shadley Van Schalkwijk is like, he's a David Wisa sort of figure without David Wisa's batting. And he's a great cutter bowler. 4 for 25 versus both India and Pakistan. And now 3 for 21 today in 2.5 overs. He's got 11 wickets in this T20 World Cup. He's the highest wicket taker. I mean, you got to love that sort of arc, right?
Yeah. No. Look, a lot of good things. I think I've got USA at 11 on the power list at the moment. So just behind Zimbabwe. And I reckon... I don't know where I had them on my original list. I'm just trying to look at it now. Yeah, no, coming into the tournament, I probably had them at about 17 or 18th once Aaron Jones wasn't playing. And if I'd seen Netravalkar bowling in Asian wickets, I might have kept them there as well. And now you have a look at the way they're playing, and they're flying up. They've played really good cricket in this tournament, and you know, all credit to them. To lose a star player on the verge of a tournament under a match fixing cloud can, especially for an associate team, could screw you up. And they've got better.
Even their 4th best bowler or 5th best bowler, which is probably Kenjige, right? He struck with his first ball. He ends up with 1 for 20 in 3 overs. So I feel like they've got a really balanced side. As you said, they bat. You know, quite deep, and there's some quality over there. If you look at their phase-wise play, they never drop off. 53 for 1 in the power play, 96 for 2 in 10 overs. 15 over mark, they're 148 for 3. They should have gotten more than 196, honestly. 200 balls on the card. So I feel like the USA would probably start as favorites versus Namibia, because that's going to be another really, really exciting game that we have to look forward to. And I mean, they are a fun team to watch. That's all I'll say. Netherlands, well... Not much to write home today about at all. Bowled out for 103 in 15.5 overs. I suppose the only good thing were the slow bounces by Bastelida and the knuckleballs. He took 3 for 37. Yeah, I mean, he went for runs.
Again, you don't really want Bastelida to be your main bowler, though, do you?
I mean, Van Meekeren is injured, and Bastelida is playing the Van Meekeren role. He's hitting, you know, back of a length, short length deliveries, and he's wearing his pace. And I do like the slow bounces
Van Beek bowled
and the knuckleball.
Yeah,
he did
Logan
quite
Van
well,
Beek
right? In both phases. None for 14 in 2 power play overs, and then 1 for 28 overall. So I think Logan Van Beek, after having a shit first game, has pulled things back. But I expect more for them, Dutch. I really do. I think they're a really good side.
No, absolutely no doubt. I had them really high up my ratings, and they have fallen down absolutely massively. I think I had them as high as 10th at one stage. right? After the way they played against Pakistan
Yeah.
and the all-round talent that they have available to them. You know, you've got Roloff, Ackerman, and Baz the leader. You can get 8 to 9 overs out of that, and all those guys bat in their top 6, right? And they've got good fast bowlers as well. You know, guys like Klaassen and Klein and Logan Van Beek, as we talked about before. So even without Van Meekeren, there's a lot to like there. So really disappointing. I'd be fascinated to talk to them after this game because I think they would be gutted after that. Like, honestly, losing is one thing, but they got smashed as well.
Yeah, and when, you know, they were playing Pakistan, had Max O'Dowd not dropped Fahim Ashraf's catch, that was a short victory for them. So to see how they've kind of, you know, won a game after that and then slid really poorly in this game, I feel a bit underwhelmed because I was telling people that I have Netherlands as slight favorites in this game just because these guys play more cricket than the USA boys. They've got more exposure, they have more experience. But one thing that you can't fault them on is that they gave absolutely everything in the field. They were throwing themselves around, saving boundaries. They tried hard, but I mean, completely undone today, outclassed.
Yeah, no doubt, absolutely.
Yeah, all right. We've got a couple of super chats, Jared, that I will bring up this time, and I will end the show because you will end the show when I'm doing my outro. Yeah, I don't want you to end the show when I'm doing my outro. First super chat is from Shiva Balasubramaniam, or not Bala, just Shiva Subramaniam. You've had a couple of super chats from him. He says, wouldn't it be hilarious if the India-Pakistan game was washed out? It would be top drawer comedy. I would love it. I'd pay for it.
The only option I will allow now, other than 3 super overs.
Yes, it's either that or washout. And I feel like after all the drama of Pakistan threatening to forfeit, all of that stuff, and now that they've found this weird middle ground in which everyone is losing anyway, Bangladesh is still not in the T20 World Cup, right? It would be hilarious if they still miss out on all that money. Anyway. Yeah, Jared's expression says it all. Andy B. First time today he's featuring. He asks, Hazelwood is one of the best T20 bowlers in the world, but are we overstating the loss of Cummins and Stark, who haven't been that good in T20s of late? Stark is retired, and Cummins can also bowl good cutters, but Hazelwood is top and end. That's his specialty.
But here's the thing. If you had the choice of picking Ben Dwarshuis or Mitchell Stark, who would you pick, Andy? Like, it's fair to say that Mitchell Stark isn't the peak Mitchell Stark, but in what world, would you ever pick Ben Dwarshuis over Mitchell Stark? Pat Cummins has a bowling average in T20 cricket of about 23 or something. Internationals. Not quite as good domestically, and he has gone for runs, but he can also bat. So having Cummins and Stark in T20 cricket, even when they're not bowling as well, as a partnership, actually quite help you a lot with the batting, especially if you want to go as hard as Australia does. So we're not overstating it, man. It's a massive loss for this team to not have those. Hazelwood is the most important bowler at the moment. You won't get any arguments from me there. I think he's still underrated as a T20 bowler. I think people have fully understood how good he has been in the last couple of years. But those other two are so important as all-round cricketers, as fielders and everything else. They opened a bowling with Marcus Stoinis today, dude.
Yep.
I cannot keep saying that.
I still had Australia as contenders up until I thought they had Hazelwood available. The minute he got injured, I was like, okay, no chance. Because Hazelwood does really well in India when he plays for the RCB team. So,
well, you know, I had them ranked under England before this game. So I think a lot of people will see the power rankings and will think I've dropped them because of the Zimbabwe game. They're actually in the exact same place because of the Zimbabwe game that I had them before. But I'd already dropped them down because if you've got guys like Stoinis and Green having to bowl a lot, if you've got Kuhneman, you're relying on Maxwell's bowling. This is just not the team. And so the guys that you just said don't matter all that much, they would completely change this side, right? Even if they're not great T20 players, they're just so much better than what's available. Yeah,
right now you're just heavily reliant on Nathan Ellis and Adam Zampa, and that's not a good place to be. Okay, Zach Kogut asks, how does the US get scheduled India plus Pakistan before Australia plays once? Harder to say excited when Super 8 hopes are over by day 4. The scheduling thing in cricket has been quite a talking point over the years. I mean, Australia didn't play for the longest time, and now they're playing 3 games really, in quick succession. We've seen tournaments in which everyone's played 2 games and India still hasn't played. We see pre-seeded Super 8s, which kills everything. You want tournament cricket to be exciting. You want to see who finishes top of the group because you don't know what the next Super 8 group is going to be like. But this is cricket, man. It's a broken sport. What can I say?
Yeah, I mean, We gerrymander everything in cricket, and it never makes any sense, Zach. And you're right, but welcome to cricket.
Yeah, I suppose. All right, Andy once again asks, can guys like Tilak who dot up serve as insurance anchors in tricky conditions? Wouldn't they just end up putting up too much pressure on themselves? Didn't Tilak do that exact job in the Asia Cup final though? He won that game for India.
The thing with someone like Tilak is he can dot up, but he can also go on a spree of hitting 4 boundaries in a row. So the kind of players that put too much pressure on themselves are the players who don't have the ability to come back and hit the 4 boundaries in a row, right? So I've got no issue with something like that. He is comfortable. This is a really important thing to understand. He's not doing this by accident. He's comfortable with having dot balls. And that's why I compared him on a previous show to the West Indies players, because they're also very, very comfortable in having those sorts of things.
All right, last super chat of the day, and whenever I say that, there are like 3 more. Vibor Seth says South Africa, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Netherlands, and different. All 4 groups are alive. I think Group B is the most alive right now, but you're right. Had the Netherlands defeated Pakistan and had South Africa defeated, or Afghanistan defeated South Africa, this would be an even more insane World Cup. And it's already been incredible, right? I was talking to my friend today that I cannot remember a single T20 World Cup where things got so exciting at the start. So many good games.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be the opposite, right? So we're in a situation where it's working really well, but the all 4 groups not being alive, I mean, you're just going to not get that. We got some really exciting games. Those 2 games you're talking about, Vibor, were great to watch, and maybe that's, sometimes it's the friends you make along the way.
Yeah, and I mean, at least we got an upset today, right? Okay, then, that wraps up this show. Thank you so much for all of your interactions and your super chats, and we'll be back once again tomorrow on one of these end of day, sort of shows. We should have had an emergency podcast today, but none of us were available. I mean, I think Rob was the only person available because I had to go to Pro Sports as well. But if we have more remarkable things happening in the T20 World Cup, we promise that we'll try our best to give you emergency podcasts as well. Other than that, go like, share, and subscribe to Commbox everywhere. And just spread the word. Watch our shows. We love you. Have a good day. Take care. And goodbye.
Cricket has never finished at the close of play. It lives in the arguments, the memories, the comment sections. Cricket makes you talk. Commbox is entering that chat.